Just checking to make sure everything looks good. Alrighty. Hello, everyone. My name is Mikkel Linsky, and I am a physical therapist over at ProFlex Physical Therapy. And today what we're going to be talking about is ergonomics and working from home. So what we're going to do today, if you have any questions, you can just type them into the chat box, and at the end of the discussion, I will try and see if I can find them, and I will answer as many questions as I can. All right? So let's get started. What we will be covering today is that we'll be talking about ergonomics and how it can help you. We'll also be talking about typical symptoms and possible long-term effects of sitting at your workstation for a prolonged period of time, the ideal setup for your home workstation, some creative alternatives to improve your work desk setup at home, and some exercises that you can perform to decrease and prevent those postural pains that you might have. So what is ergonomics? So ergonomics, as it says below, workplace ergonomics is the science of designing the workplace, keeping in mind the capabilities and limitations of the worker. Ergonomic changes can assist in decreasing one's risk for future injury to the musculoskeletal system, as well as improving efficiency in performing within the human body. So what does that mean? Essentially, ergonomics is to help your body put yourself in the best possible position so that you're not feeling pain in your back or anything like that. Basically, to help prevent any future risk for pain, okay, or injury, I should say. So, what are some benefits of implementing ergonomic concepts at your house, at your workstation? So, first and foremost, for yourself, it helps decrease risk for future pain in your neck, your back, your shoulders, your wrists, and your hands. And it doesn't only just affect yourself, but also affects your employers as well, because it helps decrease costs for both themselves and for your employers and yourself. Because if you're injured, you're gonna see increased health costs, maybe even increased premiums, but also it's gonna decrease your efficiency in the quality of your work as well. So that's gonna affect your employer as well. As I said below, it'll increase having proper ergonomic concepts is going to increase your work efficiency as well as improve your quality of work. And as I said before, if you're not focused on if you're focused on your pain and not so much on your work, your efficiency in the quality of your work will decline. And last but not least, it is to help make you feel better throughout the day. So what are some common problems that we see from poor posture? So here's just some of them. At your neck and your shoulders, we can see soreness, muscle cramps, and dull pain. Sometimes we also see some radiating symptoms down your arms as well, although that is a little bit less common for postural problems. Also in your low back, we can see aches, soreness, dull pain, and discomfort while sitting. And at your wrist and your hands, we can see something called carpal tunnel syndrome, which is basically some weakness, fatigue, and inflammation. All right. So these are not all the problems that you can see, but these are just some of the common problems that we see with bad posture. All right. So next we'll talk about is the ideal workplace setup. So we'll be talking about sitting. So let me just go forward one. And as you can see right here, we're going to be talking about this middle one right here. Okay. So the ideal workplace setup for sitting, okay, you want to make sure that when you're sitting in a good posture, your eyes should be right at the top of the screen or the top of your monitor, okay? It should be eye level so that when you're looking down, if you want to look at the bottom of your screen, you should be able to use your eyes to track down to the bottom of your screen. You shouldn't have your head cranking up or down. That's going to cause problems in your neck, okay? The next thing that we're going to do is your upper back, okay? We want it to be nice and straight, and it should be nice and relaxed, okay? Some people, you'll see their shoulders kind of get scrunched up like this, or some people that try too hard for good, proper posture, you're going to see them trying to really squeeze their shoulder blades together. Both of those is not what we want. It should be nice, relaxed, and straight, okay? What's going to help this is to have the proper height for your armrests. So your elbows should be at about 90 degrees when you put them onto the armrest. And if your armrests are too high, what you'll see is what I was talking about before, which is those shoulders being pushed up, and that's going to cause some upper back problems, okay? The next thing is, where do we put our wrists and hands when we're typing on the computer? We want to make sure that we put our wrists straight onto the table, and we also want our hands to be nice and relaxed. If your hands are like this, bent up too much, you're going to cause some problems. And if you're smashing on that keyboard with your fingers, if you do that repetitively, you're going to have some finger problems as well. Next thing is a little bit more difficult, and the reason being is proper lumbar support, which basically means just proper low back support for your chair. Everyone has a different curvature in their spine for their low back, so everyone's low back support should be a little bit different. But I will talk about this a little bit in future slides. But basically, you want something that's going to support the arch in your low back, okay? The next one is that we want to make sure that our hips are all the way back into our chair. So we can see right here, we'll go forward. You'll see that this guy's hips are all the way back into his chair, as opposed to this guy on the left who's scooted up into his chair, okay? And then the last thing is that we want to make sure that our feet are flat on the floor. And if your legs are too short, possibly have a footrest, okay? And one thing that I didn't necessarily add, but I do want to kind of make a point of, is you don't want your feet to be underneath your chair. You want your knees to be at about 90 to 110 degrees. So that's basically knees going straight down or maybe a little bit further forward. And make sure that those feet are on the floor, okay? All right. Some tips to adjust your home workstation. So the first thing is that we want to make sure that so we'll say raising your monitor, okay? So say your monitor is too high for you, okay? Or it's too low, but we need to raise it up a little bit higher so that your monitor is at eye level. We want to make sure that we can adjust it to the proper height. So one thing that we can do is we can either use a textbook or multiple textbooks or a stack of printing paper, okay? So if you're using a stack of printing paper, you can really properly adjust your monitor to the right height so that you're making sure that those eyes are at the top of the monitor. The next thing is that you have no lumbar support in your chair. So if some people do have, if you're fortunate enough to have lumbar support in your chair, you might already know you can kind of adjust it in the back and it will properly form to your low back. But if you don't have one of those, I have two suggestions that you can use. One of them is the cheapest way, which is to use a rolled up towel like this, okay? So basically, I'll kind of scoot back a little bit. You have a towel just like this, you roll it up. I'll roll it up real quick. And you'll have a towel that looks something like this, and you put it in the back, okay? So you can't see me putting it in my back, but for me, this might be a little bit too much, okay? So what I can do is I can unfurl it just a little bit, maybe this much, put it in my low back again where that arch is, and this is a little bit better for me, okay? And so you can really adjust how much support you want in your back by how much you're curling that towel up. That's most likely just a temporary solution. A better solution that's a little bit more permanent would be buying a lumbar support pillow. And you can see that lumbar support pillow on your right is the blue one right here, kind of circling around it. That tends to be a little bit better. Although the only problem is that it's like a one size fit all and not everyone's back is the same. So that's the only thing that you have to look for with that. The next thing is the height of your arms and your shoulders. So if, as we were saying before, if your seat is too high, okay, you're gonna see your shoulders pop up, okay? So one thing that we want to do is make sure that our elbows are nice and straight, shoulders relaxed, and elbows at 90 degrees. So two ways that we can adjust this is to use a firm pillow, or we can use a seat cushion. So the seat cushion you can see right here is just something that will lift you up just a little bit so that when you do sit down, your shoulders are nice and relaxed, okay? And then the last thing I'll talk about for different adjustments that you can use is to use your feet. If your feet are unable to touch the floor, you can use a stack of old textbooks or even a stack of printing paper like we use for the monitor, just to make sure that your feet are touching the floor. Like I said, you don't want your feet to be underneath your chair, okay? So next what we'll do is we'll talk about 4 different exercises that we can perform while working at home. Okay, so the first one, I'm going to demonstrate each one of these as best as I can. So the first one is chin tucks. Okay, so I'm going to go sideways just so you can see how my chin is working. Okay, so usually what I try and tell people is get in that good posture, put your finger right to your chin. Okay, and I want you to try and draw your chin back like this. Okay, so I don't want to see you bringing your chin down to your chest. That's not what we're doing. Trying to bring that chin straight back. And one cue that I like to give my patients is try and make a double chin. Okay, just like this. And you should feel a little bit of stretch in the back of your head. You don't want too much stretch, but you might feel a little bit of a stretch. That is okay. Try and do that holding for about 5 seconds. Do that 10 times. Now, if you're not feeling anything from that, try and hold it for a little bit longer, maybe 10 or 15 seconds. You should feel a little bit of muscle work right in this area right here. Okay, shouldn't be painful, and you should be able to breathe the whole time. So if you're not breathing, you're doing it incorrectly, and maybe that is not the best one for you to do. But should be able to breathe, should be able to talk. Okay, and feel a nice stretch, or not a stretch, a nice muscle workout right in these muscles right here. The next one that we'll have you do is shoulder blade squeezes. Okay, so as I was telling you before, we don't want you to do those shoulder blade squeezes and use these as exercise or as proper posture. But these are good for trying to really work that upper back. So trying to squeeze those shoulder blades for 5 seconds. Okay, and do that 20 times. Squeeze them back, hold for 5 seconds. Okay, 20 times for that. The next one is seated core activation. This one might be a little bit harder for you to see. But for seated core activation, your core has different muscles, okay, in your core. And so we're not going to be doing your 6-pack ab core workout, like where you're kind of clamping down like this and trying to squeeze those 6-packs together. What I want to do instead is I want you to sit up nice and tall, like that good posture that we were talking about. And I want you to try and draw in your stomach almost as if you're putting on like a tight pair of pants, okay? And I want you to hold that for 30 seconds. You should be able to talk. You should be able to breathe. We don't want you holding your breath for this exercise or for any of these exercises for that matter, okay? Holding for 30 seconds. Try and do that about 8 times, okay? And then the last one is seated calf raises. So obviously I'm not going to be able to show you this one, but I can try and demonstrate it with my hand, okay? So pretend this is your foot right here and this is your calf muscle. So we want your heel to raise up off of the floor, both of them at the same time, and then lower them. Raise them up off the floor and lower them, squeezing that calf muscle the entire time when you're raising those heels up. So the good thing with these home exercises is that you can actually do these while you're working, or you can do them while you're taking a break, okay? So if you're working, you can actually do these shoulder blade squeezes or try and activate that core while you're doing your work, okay? Now you don't have to do them constantly, but if you have a second to remind yourself to do these exercises, you can actually do them while you're working. All right, so some additional tips, all right? So one of the problems I see with a lot of people, and this happens even in school, even for myself as well at times, is that we sit in our chairs for far too long, okay? And one thing that our body's not meant to do is sit in a chair for a very long period of time. So I suggest people try and use a timer to help remind themselves to try and get up every 20 minutes, maybe even every 30 minutes, okay? Just to walk around. You don't need to walk around for, 5 or 10 minutes. It's just you need to stand up, move around for, even 20 seconds, and then just sit back at your chair and, then you can keep on working. But our bodies are not meant to sit still in the same chair for hours on end. The next one is that our bodies, we talk about having good posture, okay? Good posture is great, but I doubt anyone is going to be able to stay in that good posture that we were talking about beforehand for 100% of the time. And I don't expect anyone to do that. What I do expect, and what we should be able to expect from ourselves, is that we can try and stay in that posture for 50% of the time, or give or take a little bit more, or maybe even 75% of that time. And so it's okay if you start saying, "Oh, this is not feeling great," and trying to move in and out of that posture a little bit just to keep our body moving. Okay, like I said, we're not meant to stay in one position. It's called a static position for a long period of time. Okay. The next one is if you have the ability to stand while working, try it. Some people have a desk they have a desk and then a second desk on top that you can actually raise your desk up so that you can, work while standing. And these are really, really helpful. Our bodies are able to stand for longer than sitting. And so if you're going to use that, I'll go back for a second. You can use this third picture right here, okay? So obviously you don't have to do the hips back in the chair because you don't have the chair, and your feet are obviously on the floor, but try and keep those elbows at about 90-ish degrees, your eye level at the top of the monitor, and shoulders nice and relaxed and straight, okay? And last but not least, if you're starting to feel pain, take a break, okay? Get up, walk around, try and do some of your exercises. If those don't work and you find that you're starting to have more and more pain as day by day, it might be time to talk to a local physical therapist to see how we can help try and eliminate that pain. The faster that you can get rid of that pain and the faster that you can correct that bad posture, the less, I wouldn't say damage, but the less time that it should take to alleviate those problems and get you back to normal, okay? And remember, we want to make sure that we're decreasing or increasing your efficiency and your work quality as well. So making sure that you try and prevent that pain is super important. And that is it for what I have for presenting. Let me try and figure out, because I've never done this before, if I can find if there's any questions. If not, then we should be all set for today. Let's see. I think that was all good. All right, so I don't think there was any questions, so that makes my life a little bit easier, I guess. If you do have any questions, you can always post a question in the comments, and then we can try and ask them for you, or answer them for you, and hopefully, everyone's quarantine is going as well as they can, and hopefully everyone stays healthy and safe. That is the end of this whatever it's called.